Step into the light of the future with AC Infinity's Ion Frame LED Grow Light. Powered by industry-leading Samsung LM301H EVO diodes, it delivers unparalleled brightness and efficiency. Designed for serious growers, it offers a full spectrum of coverage, precise scheduled controls, as well as innovative sunrise and sunset dimming for a natural light cycle. Its modular, easy-to-manage system ensures optimal heat dissipation and seamless integration with all the smart grow setups that AC Infinity already offers. Experience growth without limits and results that speak for themselves. AC Infinity's Ion Frame EVO Series lights illuminate your path to exceptional yields and dank quality. Learn more at acinfinity.com and use discount code THESTASH15 at checkout to save some money on your order.
Are you a grower? Are you tired of lugging around too many bottles? Is it too expensive? Is it so confusing? Tired of reading feed charts? Well, guess what? There is an easier way. Introducing the Stash Blend. You can now get your bag of Stash Blend premium additives that you can add to your garden using just about any base nutrients. Go to stashblend.com and get your order today.
Welcome back, guys.
Welcome.
Here we are in Canada.
Oh,
Hey,
Canada.
Brofecta. Good to see you, boys.
We're here.
Welcome back. Feels great to be here.
From
What
the
a great
stash,
place
brother.
to be. We got beautiful weather, friends.
The new From the Stash merch you guys didn't see.
I saw it. I'm in
Oh,
love
I see
with
that.
it.
I like that.
That's
Did you
really
get that
nice.
off of stashmerch.com?
Life, stashmerch.com.
Nice.
Okay.
For life.
10W.
I like it.
Okay, but yeah.
That's
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool. You stole the moment there, folks.
No, you did. You guys, it's like you guys didn't pick up on anything. It's crazy. It was just crickets. But yeah.
Good to see you, boys. Good to see you.
you as well.
Before we get into this too deep, I just want to give a shout out to everybody watching. We kind of came into this. We had an idea what we were going to do for an episode, and we actually read the comments back from the last episode in regards to the timing of
We
your
actually did.
veg.
We
And
read shit out of the comments. People don't realize, like, we
Yeah, of
actually
course.
do. We really do check to see, and this is the prime reason.
yes, a lot of their inspiration for our episodes comes from you guys. And
100%.
in the last episode, we asked if you guys would like to see us kind of continue on with the veg story and kind of the timing in the veg. And you guys said yes. And then we seen the idea of mastering a short veg time before flipping to flower. I
Shout out to
thought,
the
you
Short
know what?
Kings.
Yeah, thanks, bro. It's about time I get a damn shout out. Thanks.
Got you, brother.
My little arms I couldn't reach. Matt, I think that's a good conversation. That's a good conversation. I think if you're going to try to master the timing in the veg garden, why not try to do it in the fastest amount of time with the least amount of, say, not necessarily the least amount of effort, but in the least amount of time.
Least amount of hiccups.
Least amount of room for error.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to flip to flower fast. I'm one of those people. You know, I would love to, if every single run was a 30-day veg and I could flip to flower, that would be great. And I'm talking veg from when the seed sprouts on the medium. That's usually what I call day one. And then I just count the days up from there. And some people are like, oh, the first couple weeks are seedling. Okay. But, you know, generally speaking, 30 days from when it sprouts from the medium, I would love to flip. And I've done many runs where I can. And that's kind of like a personal goal for me, I guess you could say, because I'm not growing massive plants. I'm growing smaller plants. So I can actually get away with a 30-day flip. Now, what is considered a fast flip is subjective. It depends on your personal goal, right? Mine's 30 days. Rob's might be different. I know Pigeons, I believe, veg is for longer. His might be 50 or 60 days, right? So what is considered a fast time in veg is totally subjective.
Subjective for sure. But you know what? If you're trying to push it and trying to do the least amount of time, one would assume you're not trying to put on a whole lot of training. Maybe you're doing a sea of green and you just want to get these girls just up above the pot, straight into flower, just no time at all. It's going to be a challenge because you don't want any hiccups. You don't want to have any errors because these errors will prolong that veg time and you're going to be working a little bit longer. So yeah, and I do veg generally a little bit longer. So for me, the fastest time is 60 days. If I can get it in and out of the veg tent in 60 days, that's right on time. That's in the shortest amount of time, and I'm ready to go. So, yep.
Yeah. Well, I think starting out, you say this often, starting with genetics, but getting a genetic that has a lot of vigor in veg phase, that grows really quick, that's not too short and squatty, That's not going to take too long to actually get to the point you can maybe put it within a trellis or a scrog net or flip it into flower. And also knowing something that's going to be able to stretch the right amount when you flip. If the breeder has that information available, you'll be able to actually look and see, well, this is going to take, maybe 14, I'll do a 2-week veg, and then I flip to flower, it's going to double or triple in size. You can predict your canopy size then and how many plants you may need to grow to get a nice even canopy. I think that's a big factor is just finding out a little bit about the lineage and some information about those growth characteristics, and then it'll help you start off at a good point for something that'll grow quicker.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you kind of nailed it on the head. If I was going to try to push through, and this is kind of, goes against, it goes against morals. No, morals. The idea is that I want to go automation. I want to take the human error or human element out of the equation if I'm trying to get it as done as fast as possible.
Robots.
So robots are taking over for me. I've got
I'm done. I just hired R2D2.
In fact, if you haven't realized that I'm AI already, I want to make sure that the tent's going to be moderated. I'm going to be able to just walk up, see humidity, see temperature, VPD, got everything dialed in, fantastic, walk away. That way, I know that I'm not fluctuating, turning things up, turning things down. So automation, I think, really helps if you're trying to shorten and decrease the amount of hiccups.
Yeah, narrowing it down to environment. I mean, geez, humidity, temperature. It makes things a lot easier when you have that controller, and you can just pull up your phone and open up an app and see the temperature, humidity, and if it's out of range, you're getting alerted on your phone. So if you're in the other room, you can come in and make adjustments, whether it be empty out your dehumidifier, add in water to your humidifier, and dial in that, because a consistent or a good environment is going to allow for optimal plant growth. And if it's outside of that range, you could have stunted growth for sure.
That's exactly why you should get yourself a controller 6.9 by AC Infinity. Code the stash 15.
They definitely help. It definitely helps. And there are a number of moderator or monitors that'll assist, but having one that speaks to everything is definitely an asset for you as well.
Well, it boils down to also making sure you have the right equipment that can speak to it, because we are in a day and age of smart technology, and some things can help with a simple Google app, with a smart app, or the Amazon, the Alexa app. Those things can work decent enough. But when you're looking at things like your VPD, your vapor pressure deficit, which can help towards more vigorous growth, you want something that's more accurate and that's going to read everything and it's going to be right and tight with your grow and optimize for plants.
Agreed. One thing I think that can kind of get lost without automation, because we're not really there yet, is lighting. Now we have light movers, but we don't
pretty baller.
We just don't have anything that's adjusting the height of the light to the canopy as it progresses through the veg.
Neither of you guys watch Scrog School.
Due time.
It was a while ago now.
Not all of us can afford to have a small person come and lower and raise our lights.
Dude, this guy rigged a system that he had these pulleys, and it was automated to go up and down. Well, I think he could pull it.
Okay.
He had to go up and down for him. It was so cool.
It's just not going to have a sensor determine the top of the canopy, read the leaf temperature.
That was the AI video you and I talked about. We created that product for the people watching, remember?
That's right.
The idea
That's
right.
right.
Called it the Grow Bro or something.
That's the future.
That's the future,
That's
baby.
the one.
So
That's
needless to say, for me, if I wanted to get through veg as fast as possible, I'm actually going to keep that light almost as squat and low as possible as I can to kind of manage the stretch. If it's a stretchy, if it's a lanky one, well, I'm not going to give it a whole lot of options. I'm going to try to keep it as low as I can so it doesn't get away from me.
Yeah, I know some people might be wanting to hear numbers as well that touch upon light. If anybody's tracking PPFD, so amount of PAR measured in PPFD. Typically, veg stage, I'm usually doing 400 to 600 is a good general range. Of course, people go outside of that, whether it be more than that, less than that. But in order to get that optimal growth, make sure that your plants aren't stunted at all, or slower growth at all. You're trying to get through veg fast. That's the point of this video, is ensuring that you're kind of dialed in when it comes to the lighting. And so,
Perfect.
Having those numbers there. You having a PAR meter, I know some of them are expensive, but you can use it on your phone now. There's some apps you can use to get a measurement of PAR. You might want to consider utilizing that. That's definitely a helpful tool.
Absolutely. I think with that, utilizing other tools would be, we did mention multiple times in this Canada series about utilizing moisture meters.
Yeah.
And being able to utilize crop steering with your heavier feeding and your high frequency fertigation, and then also with your drybacks. This is a huge thing too. I've seen people grow in soil and it looks like they're growing in hydroponics because of how much they're able to dial in basically the manipulation of the feeding and the water and the moisture within the pot, and they absolutely crush it. But with the pot, do you gentlemen ever think about the aeration to the roots? Like the argument you hear people using, what are those pots with little holes around the side? That
Air pots.
Air pot. Whoa. What a clever name. the air pots that get air to the roots. Yeah. That's funny. It's like those. I've got buddies who swear by it still to this day that they get more vigor roots and faster growing plants because they have that, and same with smart pots or cloth pots as well versus the hard plastic ones that have less aeration.
Really, really great call out. Yeah, that's definitely going to help get you a faster veg time, right? Your plants grow more vigorously. I mean, even choosing the medium, cocoa versus soil, right?
Yep.
Cocoa's more airier medium. It's going to allow more oxygen down in the root zone. DWC, hydroponics,
yeah.
man, that you can get really fast veg growth with that. So, yeah, your growing method is a way that you can speed up veg time and growth.
Any particular nutrients you guys would utilize?
Definitely make sure you're having Stash Blend in the mix. Go to
Stash Blend.
stashblend.com.
But why? There's some beneficial, aspects to Stash Blend that are going to allow you to get a faster growth during veg. And
oh yeah, dude, utilizing mycorrhizae and beneficial bacteria is huge. I mean, I don't care what brand you're using other than Stash Blend you need to be using, but it's so underutilized. It blows my mind how many people who are growing plants who don't utilize it. I'm like, dude, like go in your backyard and dig up some mulch or something. Like, figure it out. You need to get something in there for some microbes, some life in your plant.
Yeah, that, and then Stash Blend also has some NPK, right? 215 NPK has nutrition in there, so it definitely helps.
Yeah,
well
and
fed,
silica,
baby.
and some silica as
Keep
well.
'em well
Hardy,
fed.
strong. If you're gonna start doing some bending and manipulation, utilizing some silica within your feeding regimen would be important too. It doesn't matter what, DWC, soil, soilless media. Some form of silica will definitely help because it'll make your plant more malleable, but also strong. That plant cell wall will be strong, so you can manipulate the plant more without bending it and breaking it in a negative way.
Beautiful, man. Yep, beautiful. I totally agree. Feeding's going to be important. Feeding's going to be really important. Pot size, I think is really, really something you want to take into consider too, because I think if you leave it in the original pot for too long, that's going to kind of hinder the root ball, and you're not going to get maximum growth. But at the same time, personally, I also don't think you should put in the largest pot to start either, because I also believe in training the roots, which might be different for everyone.
Yeah, different takes on that. Some people would argue against that method, but both ways. I think the most important takeaway is that you don't want it to be root bound, right? You don't want those roots to be in, say, a plastic container, for example, where it's circling around the edge and it's actually inhibiting nutrient uptake at that point, right? So that's something that could slow down growth. And if we're looking to get a fast veg time and flip the flower quick, we don't want any slow growth to happen. So yeah, I think that's a great call out is transplant on time. I will take a different stance to you as far as training your roots and stuff. Like I totally love to start out in a large container and just let the roots grow throughout there, but different strokes for different folks in that particular case.
Yeah, I think root growth is very, very important to think about. And that's where like those kind of pots we were just talking about can help you with air pruning. I do still notice with cloth pots, the quality does vary. Just the random cheap big bag that you'll get on Amazon is not the same as getting some of the quality ones that AC Infinity provides or smart pots themselves.
Geopots.
Geopot's
a good
one.
Geopats? Yeah.
I was like, Geopats are doing it too now?
Chia.
But to be able to use some air pruning, so to speak, that can definitely help. And again, keeping oxygen to the roots without having them exposed to light is a big thing. I know people who will swear by just using rock wool, and they're tiny, tiny containers. I've seen it in commercial grows. They're massive plants, quick vegging, 2-3 week veg and flip to flower. And the thing is when they're going into flower, it's misleading because you see a plant the size of Chris's water bottle and, just for reference, if you're not watching.
32 ounce.
Yeah, if you're not watching, you're listening. But 32 ounce bottle, not that big, maybe a foot and a half, maybe a foot,
11 inches.
11 inches. All right. So he's a size guy, okay? We ain't talking about size today. But with that being said, sea plants like that double in size, and some plant training make them look like big, hardy plants. So your vegging fast time doesn't always have to be thinking about, I need the biggest, most monstrous beast of a plant right away. But if you have a big pot, you'll notice oftentimes, in this total horticulture green thumb, is that a larger pot, you'll have more width of the plant. It just has more room to grow. You'll have a tall plant, but it's like, I've had plants that are like Chileto G is a prime example. It's a globe. It grows bushy, and it's wider. When I put it in a bigger container, it doubles in size. Like, it's just wider as a whole. It goes with the root growth. It's like a tree. It has more place to grow. As where a smaller container, I can have it more, slim and tall. That's the way I work it. But it depends on your setup. You could do a sea of green and want to have a bunch of skinny, tall plants that you could just force in there versus one big beast that you put in a 4x4,
I definitely wouldn't put more than one plant into a pot.
Nah.
I know some people.
I've done it. I'm actually doing it right now.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to argue against it. If you're going to try to maximize,
I think it sucks.
No, I sorry not to cut you off, but I'm only doing it because it's the last resort. You know what I mean? I got stuck with running out of pots, so I have 3 in one 10-gallon container. It's a fun little experiment. Anyways,
and let it be.
Plant.
If you're trying to maximize the amount of time in veg, you don't want your plants competing against any other plants. So
agreed.
It is what it is. Yeah,
not ideal.
I'm not going to knock on the technique. I just if you want speed, that's not going to give it to you. Give it its own pot. I would even argue too, like maybe you don't want to fill the tent to the max either. Maybe give them a chance to breathe and to spread out, so they're not so confined, consuming, and they're not competing for any environmental benefits. Humidity or just anything that might, whether they're sucking in oxygen or what. So there's just no competition between plants as well.
I was literally backed into a wall, I felt like, because I ran out of space physically. And I'm like, man, I want these in living soil. I didn't think all these, I actually thought one of them wasn't going to make it, but it bounced back. And I was like, I don't want to just kill off a healthy plant right now. I got it in this, I got this 110-gallon left. I'm just going to put them all in here, and then I'm going to do a really, really fast flip. It got an okay result, so not too bad. It's very small yield on it, but nothing too impressive, but I was just backed into a wall. I wouldn't do that if I was trying to have a short veg time and flip to flower fast.
Well, I think the main thing is you have all of those plants now overlapping and fighting for food with their roots.
Exactly.
And
that's the reason why I wouldn't traditionally do it.
Yeah. Yep. Soil beds are different though. That's where you can take a bunch of these small plants.
So it was a big soil bed,
Yeah. And I mean, you look at the winner of the Growers Gauntlet. Again, it was Luke. He had 4 plants in there. I couldn't tell if it was one big beast or if it was 2. Like, what the hell it was. The canopy was so big and full. That you can do in a multi-stage situation, but it's tough when you're in a pot with less food, looking at that soil as your battery. So that battery size is only so big, and you can't have that many vehicles pulling that kind of energy off of it, so to speak. That still can speed up your veg time and get you into flower, but your end result won't be good. I think our focus in this is you want the fast veg time with the banger results.
100%.
And that's where then you may look at, I think the fastest would be the sea of green method, like I touched on briefly.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Clone and toss. Like, essentially, we're doing, my roots are established, we're going into flower. Like, it's that crazy where if you get 28 grams per plant, you're going to be pretty happy. You know what I'm saying? I had one where I got like 7 grams on, it was all different genetics, like 7 grams on one, 56 on another, 20 on another, but overall I got over a pound with one light. I was like, oh, all right, this shows something. My cost at the time, we were in caregiver days, so my cost was lower than it's ever been. But because I grew a bunch of different genetics, the ones I liked the best were the ones that grew like 7 grams and 3 grams. So I had all this, like, it was like, well, I got way more of this, but not enough of this, and this isn't a whole ounce here. But in that case, if you're doing all like a monocrop, the same cultivar, you can really crush it, and you could bypass your veg like crazy.
Super, super quick with the sea of green method. I mean, I've seen one where it was a bunch of different solo cups. And with the textbook sea of green method, right, just to clarify, it's just one branch coming up. That plant doesn't have any side branching really that's kind of getting stripped off. And so it's just one cola coming up and just a bunch of different of those just side by side. And most of the time you're trying to fill up that whole grow space, right? So you've got all these individual colas super close together. And you can fetch for a very short period of time and then flip to flower fast. And that's arguably the fastest
That might
one,
be the hack, dude.
Now the plant is going to spend some time in veg regardless of the light cycle, right? So if you have a photoperiod plant, it sprouts on the medium, you immediately put that on a 12-12 light cycle, it's still going to veg. You're not going to see any pistils, any start of flowering. For the earliest I've ever seen is 21 days is when I first started seeing pistils. So, and that's putting a seedling directly on a 12-12 light cycle. So it is going to spend some time there. So you could literally just have 21 days and you're starting to flower, and 8 weeks later you can do an 8-week cultivar and you're harvesting at that point. So you could do a super, super fast veg time with the Sea Green method.
I think that's a great hack for a lot of people, but then how you're feeding it is way different compared to the let's say even the screen of green, the scrog versus the sog. Sea of green, oftentimes you'll see flood tables or drain to waste method, going because it's easier to maintain in automation. I've never seen a plant bed, which that now looking at it thinking that may be the best idea, but then is it because the plant needs so many square feet in between for food? Because it's the battery, so to speak. So now you're going to have to amend more, and you're going to have less room to amend because you have all these stems coming out versus one central that works its way into a giant canopy. So it's like maybe the easiest way to go about it would be hydroponics, and it's just the flood table, and you're running it that way. But you have to be on it a lot more, and automation may be the way to do it versus having individual plants that you can cater to and veg like that.
Yeah, if you're, I think it's important to note that if you are doing the Sea Green method, it would be a hassle if you hand watered each one individually.
Yeah,
so
horrible.
a lot of people use with a flood tray, one of those trays that you can stick within your grow tent or whatever, and then flood and drain system is usually what people have it hooked up to. Is just making it all automated there, and that's huge help labor wise, reduction in the amount of labor, and dialing that watering as well.
Yeah.
I agree. I love to agree. I think we've focused really hard on trying to maximize getting it all right in veg to get the quickest results possible in a tent. What if somebody wanted to go outside and you've got a short summer, you've got a real quick spring, and then you're hitting the fall? I would highly recommend that you start indoors. Try to get that plant going as early as January, February, indoors under a nice setup, trying to make sure that she can get well hardy, big, strong, and thick, so that come June, that's when you're talking February a few weeks ago in regards to when you can start planting outside. We're not planting until June, so we have no time. It has to be a fast veg. And in that time, you need a plant that's going to be huge. I want those Mendo plants in a fraction of the amount of time. So that plant needs to be huge before it goes outside in order to maximize veg space in a low summer or short growing season somewhere up north like here.
I think that's a prime example of a shorter veg time, not like in this context of the video, not necessarily meaning the time of length of actual time, but meaning your window.
Maximizing time.
So,
just maximizing the time you
maximizing.
have.
That's a prime example of doing that. And it'd be the same with the flowering. Even once you get into that, it's like your window is your window. You can control it inside. So it's very tough outside. I think that's the only logic I see is to be able to either do that, to essentially make your whole grow focused on off season being veg for the main season, or you run with your favorite autos because they're going to flip no matter what the light cycle is.
Sarcasm.
Love autos.
You do a big container, and as long as you know you have a 2-month window in between your flowering, essentially, you're going to have enough time, to make it grow enough. So you could do a little bit of the indoor vegging, so to speak, or just bringing it inside, dragging it in at the end of the night if your days aren't long enough. But it's tough depending on your region. You're in a place that by Croptober, it's already snowing. So that plant may not survive that. So even if you do have the early quick veg, you can't control everything.
That's it. It can be really tough. Yep, it can be really tough. Yeah, you want to make sure that you can get a quick veg. Get a quick veg, but you want that plant to be as big as possible. So it's like there's 2 veg plants, or there's 2 veg stages, right?
This kind of circles back before we even get to that point because of that limited window. What we didn't touch on is which training method would you recommend based on having a short time to veg? Would you now say I'm just going to start topping and fimming and cutting my plant, or I'm doing a scrog technique? But you want a fast veg? You think that's a possibility? Or do you think we're just doing some LST, low stress training?
I'm only doing LST personally. I'm only doing LST. I'm not even topping. I don't want to slow down growth at all. I'm just going to bend branches down and try to prevent any slow growth whatsoever. Personally,
You got to almost treat like an autoflower.
Yeah. The reality is that if I want to get through veg the fastest amount of time as possible, which is 60 days for me, then I have to start early. If I'm going to start training, which I'm going to do, and I am going to do HST, because it makes no sense for me to grow a plant that's only going to harvest 3 ounces. That is a waste of my time. That is a waste of my time. That's right. That's right.
Perfect example, because I'm only looking to get 3 ounces per plant personally.
That's right. I can only grow.
I'm glad we could compare.
That's right. That's right. I can only grow 4 plants at a time. That's it. That includes veg and flower. So I can't have 3 ounces at a time and wait months for that. It simply isn't in the equation. If I'm going to harvest, we need to be pushing 1/2 to 3/4 of a pound per plant so that I can get that harvest done, get the next plant in, and still keep within. Now I have an exception because of my prescription, but I'm speaking for a large amount of people that can only have 4 plants. So getting it into training as soon as possible, low and fast and hard, is a great way to get out of veg as fast as possible with the most amount of training to get the most amount of flower, really.
Yeah. I'm glad we all don't have the same goal when it comes to the veg time and stuff, because the viewers can kind of share a similar sense to where some of us have real short veg time expectations. Some of us have longer. Some of us only want 3 ounces per plant. Some of us want a 1/2 pound per plant or whatever more. So it's totally situational. Sure.
Well, then you look at someone who's doing the screen to green, like shout out to Northern Scrog or shout out to Troy, but he'll veg a plant for 2-3 months. You know, I've seen you be like, oh, it's 60 days. I'm like, holy I need to get my plant going. I don't have time, man. I smoke way too much. I got to put a few in, you know?
And we're at 60 days going like,
I want another
15 days.
I know, yeah.
Like, I'm like, I got to get this done.
You're disappointed with this
days.
beast. And I'm like, dude,
60
put it in
days.
flower. But again, what I'm looking at as a grower is so different.
Environment, needs, right?
Well, like we're hobbyist growers. We're not using an SOP that's like, this is what they use in Colorado and Canada and all the CAs, you know, or COs and CAs. It's really to the point now where you do what you like for your space. And unless you're having shop talk with enough people, or you're watching all these shows and you're replicating or taking pieces from somebody else's method and process, it's going to probably be different per person. The only things that you can guarantee are everybody wants to have a good end result. So the biggest thing you need to figure out is that end result comes from that veg. It comes from all the work done in there. You don't just coast into flower.
That's a really good point.
Comes from that veg.
That's a really good point.
It may need to take longer.
We are talking about trying to get through veg as fast as possible, but that's not by cutting corners, having weak, limp plants, because you're wasting your time at that point. I don't care how fast you got through veg. You've wasted your time, because by the time you get to flower, you're going to have no buds. They're going to be stretching for the sky. It's not going to be worth your time. So when we're trying to get through as fast as possible, we are trying to put in some work to get a result. 3 ounces, 5 ounces, whatever it is.
30 ounces.
79 ounces. It doesn't matter. It's like you got to figure out what that pace is and put in that
place is, bars,
in order to get the results that are going to keep you satisfied in the shortest amount of time.
That's the thing that's the only variable that varies amongst all of us who have different opinions. I feel it's just that end goal, and what it is won't change, but it's how to get there, the journey to get there. And I swear, man, you sit there. I didn't think about any of the things that Uncle Mark brought over when he pulled up with all the bags and be like, this one must have been grown hydroponically. This one must have been grown in soil. It's only one
that was organic.
I couldn't even tell when it was the living. I had no difference. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I can tell. Oh, that smells like a living organic soil. There's none of that. It's really comes down to that end product needs to be some fire dank bud, and how you got to it is interesting. It's cool. I want to hear it.
You know, that's really all it boils down to for me. It's subjective.
Yep. I honestly don't think I can add a whole lot more to
You could beat the
trying
hell
to
out of a dead moose that we all pulled like
different
drop
strokes
down.
for different folks. I think that's really the point. For different strokes for different folks is really the point in this. If you're trying to get through veg, there must be a reason why, and I imagine that reason is going to impact heavily on how you go about it.
Yeah,
I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of feedback in the comment section on what they do. One of the things I can think of that we didn't touch upon too much in detail is like, if you were looking to do a fast veg time, would you do synthetic nutrients or would you do organic route?
Ooh,
I
synthetic
think that's
for
the
crops.
question
steering.
I think people might want answered there. So
Yeah.
Well, they'll find out later because that's too controversial.
we could eventually get deeper into our personal
gonna say
takes and
synthetic,
opinion episode on
just
synthetic and
precision
organic.
feeding, a lot of people would go after precision
Yeah.
feeding, you know,
Yeah.
is being
That's
able to
exactly
control
it.
that.
I'm going to cut you both off, and I'm going to say if you want to hear us debate this in a conversation soon, let us know in the comment section. Because
fair.
we had an organic versus synthetic conversation, but not now with all this automation, new technology, advancements in everything, and grow stores vanishing. Because now accessibility to this, I got to order this water online, have it shipped to me, and the price just went up. So let us know below in the comment section. These guys can't talk about it.
Let us know.
But also, man, all these patrons here, much love to you guys making this happen. If it wasn't for you,
Thank you guys.
we wouldn't be able to be out here as a crew making it happen out here in Canada in this series. And also to Wink, man. Big shout out to Wink on the ones and twos.
Wink.
Producer of the year out
Thanks,
here
Jesse.
making it happen.
Appreciate you.
Jesse,
And
the
also-
editor. Shout out to you, my friend.
Merch
I
is
said it early.
here,
I said
ladies
it
and
early.
gentlemen.
StashMerch.com. Check it out. Latest drops. They come and they go. Not all are going to stay. Some will come back. We'll see how it goes. But
Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week. I'm Pigeons. That's
I'm
Rob.
Rob.
That's Chris.
He's Chris.
This is from
The
Stash.
We did it.
Boom.
We did it.
Yes.